Hello everyone, my name is Dean and I am in my final week of a programming class at CS 3020, which is programming in C Sharp, and we had to do a final project, which is what I'm going to go over right here. The final project I chose to do is just the simple memory game using winforms. I made a nice little welcome main menu, four different buttons, three different versions of the game, an easy, medium, and a hard, and an exit. When you click on your start game button, doesn't matter which one, it's going to load that particular game in a new form. So the easy game is just 10 cards and there's no time limits. And as you can see, there's a nice message box and a turn count. When you select your card, the message box will update saying to make the second choice, and then you'll make it again. If it doesn't match, as you can see, it clears it out and then increments your turn. If you do get a match like that, you will actually stay visible and then continue on. So you will try to get all of the icons matching, and when you do, you're going to get a nice little win message here. So it'll tell you you've won all the you matched all the cards. It took you 10 turns in this case, so that'll change depending on how many turns it takes you, and then it gives you an OK button to return to the main menu. And same thing on medium, except the difference is that you have a time limit. So as you can see, it starts counting down from 5, and when that time is up, it's going to clear out the choice and increment the turn. Otherwise, the game works the exact same way. You go through matching all your icons. As you can see, continues incrementing whether you get it right or wrong. And we're going to get another little win message when we actually match all these. Tells you the turns, back to the main menu, do it again kind of thing. You can actually go through and play the same game board again. It's actually randomly assigned where everything goes in, so the game boards are not the same between games, so it's not the same board every time. It'll be different. On the hard game, you can see there's just 30 cards, which is a lot, and then 2 seconds to make that choice. And as you can see, it starts counting from 2 instead of 5 this time. Otherwise, the game behaves the exact same way. It's going to go through and leave them visible when you actually get things that are matching, as you can see with those two. The rest of it is the exact same. Just in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through and do it all. Otherwise, the exit button also actually works on the main menu. So we're actually in the code now, and the way the game actually works is there is just some. I have a fill list that actually stores characters as strings, and each one of those characters actually corresponds to one of those icons that was being displayed. If you look on the game design uh, or the form design here, there is actually a label on each one of these little sections or cards. And the text, which is webdings, is actually what those icons are. Each character or letter corresponds to an image, and there's charts online. You can look them up if you really want to and choose one you like. But that's how it actually forms them, is you store the letter, and the letter actually makes the pictures of that fire truck and ship and all the other stuff. The way the game actually works is it switches the colors of the label. So right now, you can see that the back color and the fore color are the same. The fore color is actually your text color. So the reason you can't see it is that the same color, which makes them basically invisible. If you change the text color to black, you can now see it. And that's exactly how the game works, is when you make a choice, there's no actual flipping of cards. It's just changing the color of the text to make it visible for you to see. And then when you get them wrong, it just changes it back, and that's how it goes away. In the actual code itself, there's just a few methods that actually work and do most of it. A fill method, which just randomly generates a number. and then you use that random generated number to select an item for that fill list. So because the random number is not, uh, you don't know what you're going to get, the program just randomly picks one that uses the index of the fill list to fill that label. And that's all this for loop does, is it goes through and fills every label on that layout panel with a character. The last thing that it actually does is remove whatever it used to fill from the list so it doesn't use it again. And it goes through until all the labels are filled and essentially the list is empty. And then right here in my label click, this is the method that actually does something for every click on that layout panel. Every label, when you click it, it's the same method here. There's several ifs or if else statements. Some are just a handle if things are null or you click something else that may have been added to the panel. But the main things that handle the actual workings is this first, if the first clicked equals null. So I have two variables, which is first clicked and second clicked. They originally start as null. If the first clicked is null, it means you haven't picked anything the first time. So when you click on something, it checks it's still null, and it assigns your first click to whatever you clicked, which is actually your sender, which I did assign to click label up here. It then switches that text color, which is the for color, to black, and then it goes back and you make your second click. So your second click, which is right here, does the exact same thing just in the second click, and then it checks to see if you've won. And if you actually look in the check to see if you win, the way it does that is it just loops through all the labels. If the labels are, it checks their color. If the for color, which is your text color, is the same as the back color, which means the card is actually invisible, you can't see it, it means you haven't matched it. So you haven't finished the game and it just returns out. Otherwise, if you get all the way through that loop without it ever stopping because something's not different colors or the same color, then you get that nice little dialog box, which is the code right here. After it checks for the win, it just increments your turn count, and this update method is just it updates the turn count in that little message box. That's all that one does. So once you have picked two things, this first clicked text and second, so it's just comparing your text in this if statement. If they're the same, it just resets your two variables to null, clearing out whatever was in them, and continues on with the game. If they do not match, it starts the timer, which is this timer 1, which is right below it. And all that does is stop itself and then change the colors back to the background to make them invisible, and then reset your variables. And the actual time on that timer, which is set in the form itself, is about half a second. So it's long enough you can see it, but not so long that you get to sit there and try to stare at it and just wait. The medium game actually works the exact same way, and the hard as well as the easy. The only difference is a bigger list to correspond with more cards, and then it has a actual turn timer, which it starts in that first clicked one. So it starts your turn timer, which it's set to 5, which is up here. It sets turn time to 5, starts the timer, and then it just goes through and waits. If you don't click anything, because the second card actually stops the timer. Turn timer stop is right there. The timer itself, all it does is count down from 5. So the timer is set for a 1-second increment. So it continues to call itself, which is the if statement. It's just I have a first Boolean variable saying if it's the first card. So that has to be false. So it won't run if if you're picking your first card. And the turn time has to be greater than 0, which turn time is set in that first when you pick your first label, it sets it to 5. So it just counts down by 1 every time and restarts itself. And it'll keep doing that until it reaches 0, which is when it starts it stops itself and flips everything back over, resetting. And that is the essence of how it works. The timers themselves were actually my hardest part, getting it to work the way I wanted, because they were not updating or throwing errors because they were going off at the wrong time with things being null. Uh, as you can see, everything actually works perfectly. All of the boards work. I didn't go all the way through the hard just because it would have taken a while. I am not a master of the game of memory, and with 30 cards, you can easily spend a couple of minutes going through. So instead of putting you guys through that, I just kind of ended it. But it does work exactly the same way. No issues with anything, and I am overall very happy with it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day.